On the morning of an elegant wedding, a bride walks down the aisle with a secret sewn into her dress. What seemed like a fairy tale unravels when she reveals to the audience an emotional, financial, and ethical betrayal. And in front of everyone, she chooses the truth, even if it means starting over alone. The Saturday afternoon in London brought that golden light streaming through the apartment windows in Islington, casting soft reflections on the dark wooden furniture. Marina carefully adjusted the linen napkin on the meticulously set table, observing every detail with attention. The porcelain cups were perfectly aligned, the cornmeal cake still exuded a sweet aroma from the kitchen, and the white flowers in the center of the table seemed to radiate a peace she hadn't felt in a long time. It was another one of those gatherings that had become a tradition in recent months. Mrs. Helen, Philip's mother, would arrive at any moment with her natural elegance and that welcoming smile that made Marina feel part of something bigger. For the first time in years, Marina felt she belonged to a real family, not just on paper, but in the daily affection and simple gestures that built genuine bonds. The intercom rang and Marina answered with a smile already formed on her lips. Mrs. Helen's warm voice echoed through the apartment even before she reached the door. Marina opened it and was greeted with a perfumed hug, one of those that bring comfort and security. Mrs. Helen was a woman in her early 60s, with grey hair tied in an elegant bun, always dressed tastefully and with a discretion that did not hide her class. She carried a printed fabric bag, and her brown eyes sparkled with genuine joy at seeing her future daughter-in-law. "Darling, I brought those old recipes you asked me for. The milk pudding my grandmother used to make, and also the chocolate fudge that Philip has loved since he was little." She entered and placed the bag on the kitchen counter, observing the set table with approval. "It looks beautiful, Marina. You always had this gift for creating cozy environments. Philip is a lucky man." Marina felt her face warm with the compliment. Even after 3 years of relationship with Philip, she was still surprised by the naturalness with which his family included her in everything. She never had that at home. Her own mother, Isabel, was distant and austere, always too busy for gestures of affection. Her sister Julia had followed the same path, building invisible walls that Marina had never been able to completely tear down. "Thank you, Mrs. Helen. I'm the lucky one to have been welcomed by you all with so much affection. Sometimes I still catch myself wondering if I deserve all this." Mrs. Helen took Marina's hand firmly and looked her in the eyes with maternal seriousness. "Don't say nonsense, my dear. You are exactly what our family needed. Since you came into Philip's life, he has changed. He's lighter, more present. And I gained the daughter I always wanted to have." The words touched Marina's heart deeply. She blinked several times to ward off the tears threatening to fall. Mrs. Helen noticed and softened the moment by serving the cornmeal cake and preparing the coffee with practical and affectionate movements. As they talked about the wedding preparations scheduled for 3 months later, Marina felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. It would be a traditional ceremony at St. Michael's Church in Kensington Gardens, followed by a reception at the club Philip's family had frequented for generations. Everything was being planned down to the smallest detail, and Marina participated in every decision with genuine enthusiasm. "The dress is almost ready," Marina said, her eyes shining. "The seamstress said only the final adjustments are left. It's exactly as I always dreamed. Simple but elegant." Mrs. Helen smiled and delicately placed her cup on the saucer. "I have something for you, dear." She opened her purse and took out a small navy blue velvet box. "This belonged to my grandmother, then passed to my mother, and she gave it to me when I got married. I want you to wear it at your wedding." Marina opened the box with trembling hands. Inside, a pearl necklace rested on satin. The pearls were perfect, uniform, with a soft sheen that told stories of decades. It was a family jewel, laden with meaning and tradition. "Mrs. Helen, I can't accept. This is too precious." "That's precisely why it should be yours. You are going to be part of this family, Marina, and this is our way of showing that you are welcome, that we trust you, and that we love you." The tears Marina had tried to hold back finally streamed down. She hugged Mrs. Helen tightly, feeling the weight of the responsibility and love that gesture represented. It was everything she had always wanted, a family that embraced her, valued her, made her feel that she mattered. After Mrs. Helen left, Marina was alone in the apartment, holding the box with the necklace. She watched the street activity from the window, cars passing, people walking with their own destinations and stories. London was like that, a city that never stopped, that never completely slept. She thought of her own family. Her mother Isabel lived in Oxford, working as a university professor, always serious and distant. Visits were rare, and when they happened, they were marked by formal conversations and uncomfortable silences. Marina couldn't remember the last time her mother hugged her with the same affection Mrs. Helen showed. And Julia, her older sister by 5 years, pursued a career in law and built an independent but equally cold life. They didn't exactly fight, they just drifted apart. Small accumulated grievances, unfulfilled expectations, unspoken words that created a silent chasm between the two. Marina opened her red-covered notebook, the one she always carried with her, and wrote a few lines. It was an old habit, jotting down thoughts and reflections that arose in moments of solitude. Sometimes she wrote only loose phrases, other times small poems or observations about life. Today, she wrote something that bothered her, without knowing exactly why. Sometimes the perfect is not the true. She looked at the words on the paper and frowned. Why did she write that? Everything was perfect in her life. Philip was attentive, successful, charming. His family adored her. The wedding would be beautiful. She had a stable job as a literature teacher at a private school, friends, an organized routine. So why did that phrase come to her mind? Marina closed the notebook and put the box with the pearl necklace in a safe place. She decided it was just pre-wedding nerves, that natural insecurity every bride feels when about to take such an important step. Philip arrived home around 8 in the evening, coming straight from the office. He worked for a financial consulting firm that was rapidly expanding, and the last few months had been particularly intense. Marina noticed he was arriving later and later, more tired, more absorbed in spreadsheets and endless meetings. He was handsome in a classic way, dark hair always neatly combed, impeccable suits, a smile he knew how to use at the right moments. When he kissed her on the forehead upon arrival, Marina smelled the expensive perfume he wore, mixed with the scent of coffee and paper. "How was your day, love?" he asked, dropping his briefcase on the sofa and loosening his tie. "Your mother came to visit me. She gave me the family pearl necklace." Marina showed the box, still emotional. Philip opened it and looked at the pearls with approval. "It will look beautiful on you at the wedding. My mother really adores you." There was something in the way he said that, a naturalness that seemed calculated, but Marina pushed the thought away. She prepared dinner while Philip showered, and afterwards they ate, talking about practical wedding details and his professional life. "The company is negotiating an important merger," Philip said. "If all goes well, we'll double in size in the next 2 years. It's a unique opportunity." "That's wonderful, Philip. You've worked so hard for this." He smiled, but there was something distant in his gaze, as if his mind was already somewhere else, calculating future steps and strategies that Marina couldn't fully comprehend. After dinner, while Philip reviewed documents on his laptop, Marina returned to her notebook. She wrote a few more lines, trying to organize the thoughts that stubbornly remained confused. "I have everything I ever wanted. So why do I feel this small emptiness, this silent question I cannot answer?" She put the notebook away and decided to sleep early. Tomorrow would be Sunday, and they had planned a lunch with friends to discuss the final details of the bachelorette party. Everything was going according to plan. Everything was perfect. But as Marina closed her eyes, the phrase returned to her mind like an insistent whisper. Sometimes the perfect is not the true. And for the first time, she wondered if she shouldn't pay more attention to that small discomfort quietly growing inside her chest. The weeks flew by in a whirlwind of appointments and preparations. Marina found herself constantly between dress fittings, meetings with suppliers, choosing invitations, and all those details a traditional wedding required. Each day brought a new to-do list, a new decision to make, a new RSVP to record. That Tuesday morning, Marina was at the bridal boutique in Kensington Gardens, accompanied by Beatrice, her best friend since college. Beatrice was everything Marina was not: expansive, talkative, with strong opinions on everything. She worked as a graphic designer and had a keen eye for aesthetics. "The dress is perfect, Bea," she commented, observing Marina in front of the triple mirror. "You look radiant." Marina looked at her reflection. The dress was truly beautiful, a simple satin model with a discreet train, a V neckline, and delicate long sleeves. It was exactly what she had imagined. But as she looked at herself dressed as a bride, she felt that familiar tightness in her chest. Again, that feeling that something important was being overlooked. "Are you okay?" Beatrice noticed her friend's expression. "I am. Just nervous. It's normal, right?" Beatrice crossed her arms and tilted her head, studying Marina carefully. "Are you sure you want to marry Philip?" she asked directly, without beating around the bush as she always did. Marina turned, surprised. "Of course I am. Why do you ask?" "I don't know. You seem more worried than happy lately. And I know you, Mari. When you're truly happy, your eyes sparkle differently." Marina forced a smile and went back to the dressing room. To take off the dress. It was just the normal nerves of any bride, she repeated to herself. Beatrice was exaggerating. Everything was fine. Everything was perfect. After the dress fitting, Marina went straight to Philip's company office. He had asked her to stop by to sign some documents related to the rental agreement for the reception venue. It was something simple, bureaucratic, but Philip had insisted it needed to be done that day. The office was in a modern commercial building in Canary Wharf, all glass and steel. With that corporate air of rising companies, Marina went up to the 12th floor and was greeted by Philip's efficient secretary, a woman named Patricia. "He's in a meeting right now, but he asked you to wait in his office. The documents are on his desk." Marina entered Philip's office. It was spacious, with a large dark wood desk, shelves filled with folders and business books, and a panoramic view of the city. On the desk, in addition to the documents she was supposed to sign, there were scattered papers, a Mont Blanc pen she had given Philip for his last birthday, and a folder with the company logo. While waiting, Marina began to sign the documents where Philip had marked with yellow post-it notes. They were standardized contracts, nothing unusual. But as she turned one of the pages, she noticed a different document underneath. It was a printed email, and her name appeared in the text. Curious, Marina pulled the paper out to read it better. It was a correspondence between Philip and someone named Robert Anderson, a partner in the company. The subject was about the merger Philip had mentioned weeks ago. But what caught Marina's attention was a specific passage. "With the financial structure Marina will bring through the post-marriage patrimonial merger, we will be able to enable the expansion to the south without needing external financing. It's a perfect strategic move. Once we consolidate our market position, we can re-evaluate the situation as necessary." Marina reread the paragraph 3 times. Financial structure, she would bring, patrimonial merger, re-evaluate the situation. What exactly did that mean? Her heart pounded. She knew she had some investments, a modest inheritance she had received from her grandfather years ago, and which was invested, but Philip had never shown interest in it. They had never discussed finances in depth. She had always imagined they would marry under the partial community of property regime, as was common, but never thought her money would be relevant to his plans. She heard footsteps approaching in the corridor and quickly put the paper back under the documents. Philip entered the room with a wide smile, accompanied by a man in a grey suit whom Marina presumed to be Robert. "Love, sorry for the delay. This is my fiancée, Marina. Robert, this angel is going to make me the happiest man in the world in 3 months." Robert shook Marina's hand with professional cordiality. "Pleased to meet you, Marina. Philip can't stop talking about you. You make a beautiful couple." Marina smiled automatically, but her mind was far away, processing what she had just read. Philip took the signed documents, quickly checked them, and put them in the folder without even noticing the printed email underneath. "Done, all sorted. Want to have lunch with me?" Philip asked, already looking at his watch. Marina invented an excuse about having an afternoon class and needing to prepare material. She left with a strange feeling, as if she had seen something she shouldn't have, as if a door had slightly opened to reveal a dark room she didn't want to explore. That night at home, while grading her students' papers, Marina couldn't concentrate. She opened the red notebook and wrote, "What does it mean to be a strategic move? Am I misinterpreting? Is it just business language and has nothing to do with me personally?" But even as she wrote, a part of her knew she was deceiving herself. Something was wrong. She just didn't want to admit it. The following Saturday, there was a lunch at Mrs. Helen's house to introduce Marina to some more distant relatives who would be coming from outside London for the wedding. The house was in an affluent London neighbourhood, Kensington Gardens, a classic construction with a large garden and decor that mixed antiques with modern touches. Marina arrived early to help with the preparations. Mrs. Helen was in the kitchen supervising the maids, but insisted on personally preparing the milk pudding that was the house specialty. "You look tired, dear. Are you sleeping well?" Mrs. Helen asked, while beating eggs for the pudding. "Just anxious about the wedding, so much to sort out." Mrs. Helen put down the mixer and looked at Marina with maternal attention. "If you need anything at all, you can count on me. I know how stressful it is to organize a wedding. When I married Philip's father, I almost went crazy with so many details." Marina smiled, but didn't have the courage to share her real worries. How could she say she was beginning to doubt Philip's intentions? How could she question the son of such a kind and welcoming woman? Guests began to arrive around noon. Uncles, aunts, cousins, all curious to meet Philip's fiancée. Marina was introduced to each one, answered questions about her profession, about how she met Philip, about their plans after the wedding. She smiled so much her face started to ache. At one point, while serving wine in the living room, Marina overheard fragments of a conversation between Philip and a woman who had been introduced as Veronica, his cousin and partner in some businesses. "Is the documentation ready?" Veronica asked in a low voice. "All set. After the wedding, we can activate phase 2 of the project. Her structure will be fundamental," Philip replied. "But are you sure she won't cause problems?" Veronica insisted. "She's in love. She trusts me completely. She won't even know what's really happening until it's too late. And even if she finds out, what's she going to do? Call everything off 3 days before the wedding?" Philip chuckled softly. Marina almost dropped the wine bottle. She felt her blood run cold. They were talking about her. They had to be talking about her. Her structure. She won't even know. What did that mean? She quickly moved away, pretending she needed to get more ice from the kitchen. She locked herself in the bathroom and took deep breaths, trying to calm down. Her hands trembled. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear her pulse in her ears. Was she imagining things? Was she paranoid? Or was there really something very wrong happening behind her back? Marina washed her face, touched up her makeup, and returned to lunch. For the rest of the afternoon, she observed Philip with different eyes. She noticed how charming he was with everyone, how he knew exactly what to say to each person, how his smile seemed too perfect, too rehearsed. When they finally left, it was already evening. In the car, Philip drove, humming a song on the radio, completely relaxed. Marina looked out the window at the lights of London passing by, feeling like a stranger in her own life. "Your lunch was a success. My family adored you," Philip commented. Marina just mumbled something inaudible. Her mind was far away, trying to piece together a puzzle she didn't even know existed. When they arrived home, Marina said she had a headache and went straight to the bedroom. She lay on the bed, still dressed, staring at the ceiling, trying to decide what to do. Confront Philip? But based on what? Fragments of conversation she might have misinterpreted. An email about business that might have nothing to do with her? She opened the red notebook once more. This time she didn't write questions. She wrote a single sentence, an affirmation that had been growing inside her like a dark seed. "I need to find out the truth before it's too late." The eve of the wedding arrived, enveloped in an atmosphere of expectation and hustle. Marina woke up early that Friday with a mental list of last-minute arrangements that still needed to be made. The wedding would be on Saturday at 5 in the afternoon, and every minute of the day before seemed precious and scarce at the same time. After breakfast, Marina received a call from Beatrice confirming the details of the bachelorette party rehearsal that would take place that evening. It would be something simple, just the closest friends at a restaurant in Notting Hill, Nothing too elaborate, just the way Marina preferred. Philip also had his commitments. He and the groomsmen would have a barbecue at a friend's house, a tradition they maintained before any big occasion. Marina would take advantage of him being out all day to stop by the reception venue and check if everything was as planned. Around 3 in the afternoon, Marina got into her car and drove to the club where the reception would be held. Traffic was heavy, as always, and she took the opportunity to listen to a playlist she had made especially for those days. Songs that brought back good memories, that calmed her restless mind. Upon arriving at the club, she was greeted by the event coordinator, a competent woman named Sylvia, who had organized every detail of the decoration. They walked together through the hall that the next day would be filled with white flowers, delicate arrangements, and that romantic atmosphere Marina had always imagined for her wedding. "Everything is perfect," Sylvia commented, showing the already numbered tables, the chairs with organza bows, the stage where the hired band would play. Marina agreed, but her heart wasn't entirely there. A shadow of doubt accompanied her every step, every decision, every forced smile she gave to people. After checking all the details, Marina remembered that she had left a box with gifts for the groomsmen in the trunk of her car. They were personalized watches she had ordered months ago, a thoughtful gesture to thank her closest friends for their presence. Since Philip would be at the club later for a final meeting with the band crew, she decided to hand the box to him personally. She called Philip, who confirmed he would be at the club in about an hour with some friends to sort out sound and lighting issues. Marina decided to wait at a nearby cafe, answering messages and mentally organizing the final details. When she returned to the club, it was almost 5:30 in the afternoon. The sun was beginning to set on the horizon, painting the sky with orange and pink hues. Marina entered through the side door of the hall, the one that gave access to the dressing rooms and service area. She carried the box with the gifts and planned to leave it with Philip quickly before heading home to get ready for dinner with her friends. It was then that she heard voices coming from the main hall. She immediately recognized Philip's laugh, the one he used when he was among close friends, relaxed and without the formalities he maintained in public. Marina was about to enter when she heard her own name mentioned. She stopped in the corridor, hidden behind a decorative column. She knew she shouldn't listen, but something stronger than her will kept her there, still, attentive to every word. "So tomorrow you become a married man, huh, Philip?" one of the friends commented jokingly. "Yeah, the big day has finally arrived," Philip replied, but there was something in his voice that didn't sound like genuine joy. "And are you ready for it? Ready to spend the rest of your life with the same woman?" another friend asked. There was a pause. Marina held her breath, her heart pounding. "Look, I'll be honest with you guys," Philip replied, and Marina noticed the conspiratorial tone in his voice. "Marina is perfect for what I need right now. She's beautiful, educated, has a good family despite being distant, and most importantly, she has that inheritance from her grandfather that will be fundamental for the company's expansion." Marina felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. Philip's words echoed in the corridor like gunshots. "Wait, are you telling me you're marrying her because of money?" one of the friends asked incredulously. "It's not just that, man. She's nice, she suits me well, she's good company. But let's be realistic. Marriage nowadays is a strategic partnership," Philip explained, with a coldness that cut Marina like a blade. "I need her to enable the company's next steps. After we consolidate our market position and the merger with Robert's group is finalized, who knows, things change, people change. For now, she perfectly serves the purpose." Perfectly serves the purpose. The words reverberated in Marina's mind like a painful echo. She wasn't a person he loved. She was a tool, a piece in a business game. "Man, that's heavy. You really don't love her?" another friend questioned. "Love?" Philip laughed. "I like her, she suits me. But true love? That movie kind of love? Don't be naive. We get along well, that's enough. And when someone more suitable for future plans comes along, we'll reevaluate. For now, Marina is perfect on paper." Marina leaned against the wall, feeling her legs weaken. The box with the gifts fell from her hands with a dull thud on the floor. The voices in the hall immediately ceased. "Is anyone there?" Philip called out. Marina didn't answer. She turned and ran down the corridor, exited through the side door and went straight to her car. Her hands trembled so much it took her 3 attempts to get the key into the ignition. Tears streamed down her face uncontrollably, blurring her vision. She drove without knowing exactly where she was going. She just wanted to get away from there, from that place that was supposed to be the stage of her happiness, and now seemed contaminated by a bitter and cruel truth. She ended up stopping at a park near her house. She got out of the car and walked to a bench under a leafy tree. There, away from curious glances, she let the tears fall, freely. She cried for the lost illusion, for the broken trust, for having been so blind and naive. How had she not noticed before? How had she believed that someone like Philip, so calculating and cold in his business, would be different with her? All the signs were there. The conversations she had overheard by chance, the email she had seen on his desk, the way he always deflected when she tried to talk about deeper feelings. Marina stayed there for over an hour, trying to process everything. Her phone rang several times. It was Philip, then Beatrice, then Mrs. Helen. She didn't answer any of the calls. She needed silence. She needed to think. When she finally calmed down a bit, Marina took the red notebook she always carried in her bag. With still trembling hands, she began to write. No more questions or doubts. Now she wrote facts, evidence, snippets of conversations she had heard. Everything began to make sense like pieces of a macabre puzzle. Philip had never loved her. Everything was just a strategy. But for what exactly? What did he plan to do with her money? How exactly did he intend to use her inheritance? Marina wiped away her tears and took a deep breath. The pain was there, sharp and real, but along with it came a new clarity. She wasn't just going to run away. She wasn't going to cancel the wedding and disappear, leaving Philip and his accomplices free to find another victim. No. If Philip wanted to play this game, she knew how to play too, but by her own rules. She returned home with a plan forming in her mind. She was still hurt, betrayed, but something stronger was growing inside her. An iron determination she didn't even know she possessed. Upon arriving home, she went straight to her computer. Philip had left her the login and password for the company's systems a few months ago, saying he needed her to have access in case of emergency. At the time, Marina thought it was a gesture of trust. Now she realized it was probably another way to manipulate her, to make her feel included while using her. Marina accessed the system. She started looking for files, emails, documents. She didn't know exactly what she was looking for, but she trusted she would recognize it when she found it. It took hours. It was past midnight. Marina ignored all calls, all messages. She was focused, determined, and finally, she found it. A hidden folder named South Expansion Project. Inside it, dozens of documents, preliminary contracts, financial spreadsheets, emails exchanged between Philip, Veronica, and Robert. And there, in black and white, was the complete plan. They intended to use her inheritance as collateral for large loans. They had forged documents that made her an indirect partner in the company, without her knowledge. After the marriage, with the full community of property regime that Philip had insisted on adopting, without Marina noticing the trap, they would have legal access to everything that was hers. More than that, there were scheduled transfers to offshore accounts, tax havens, everything meticulously planned so that when she found out, it would be too late. Marina printed everything, every document, every email, every spreadsheet. The printer worked for almost an hour, spewing out page after page of undeniable evidence. When she finished, Marina organized everything methodically into a folder. Then, she opened her personal laptop and started researching. Private investigators, lawyers specializing in financial fraud, economic journalists who exposed corporate schemes. She wrote down names, numbers, addresses. She began to put together her own plan. If Philip thought she was just a naive and easy-to-manipulate pawn, he was very wrong. It was almost 4 in the morning when Marina finally lay down. She wouldn't sleep much, but it didn't matter. Tomorrow would be her wedding. And it would be unforgettable, but not for the reasons Philip imagined. Before turning off the light, Marina wrote one last sentence in her red notebook. Tomorrow, I rewrite my destiny. Marina woke up on Saturday with only 3 hours of sleep, but her mind was clearer than it had been in months. The pain was still there, throbbing in her chest, but it had been covered by a layer of determination that kept her focused. Today would be the day that changed everything. Her phone already showed dozens of unread messages. Philip had called countless times during the night, worried about her sudden disappearance. Beatrice was desperate, thinking something serious had happened. Even Mrs. Helen had left a message asking if everything was okay. Marina only replied to Beatrice with a short message saying she was fine, that she had had a passing indisposition but was already recovered and ready for the big day. She said nothing more. She couldn't risk anyone noticing that something was wrong. She got out of bed and went straight to the closet. From the back, she pulled out a small suitcase she had bought years ago for a trip that never happened. It was perfect for what she needed. She put the folder with all the documents she had printed overnight inside. She added USB drives with backup copies, contact numbers she had written down, and a handwritten letter she had penned, explaining everything in detail. Then she took her wedding dress, which was hanging in the closet inside a protective cover. It was beautiful, truly beautiful. Marina ran her hand over the soft fabric and for a moment felt a pang of sadness for what could have been and never would be. But she pushed the feeling away. There was no room for regrets now. With small scissors and thread the same color as the dress, Marina began to sew. She made a small opening in the inner lining, creating a secret pocket near her waist. It was discreet, invisible from the outside, but large enough to hold an envelope with reduced copies of the most important documents and a few USB drives. She worked carefully, each stitch made with precision. Her hands no longer trembled. She was in control, for the first time in a long time. When she finished, she put the dress away again and went to shower. She stayed a long time under the hot water, letting the steam envelop her body while her mind rehearsed every detail of the plan she had devised during her sleepless night. At 9 in the morning, the phone rang. It was Philip. This time Marina answered. "Marina, for God's sake, where were you? I was worried all night." His voice sounded anxious, almost desperate. "Sorry, love. I had an anxiety attack last night and needed to be alone for a bit. You know how nervous I get with big events." Marina kept her voice calm, almost indifferent. "But are you okay now? Today is our wedding, Marina. I need you to be okay." "I'm great. Never been better. See you at the church, okay?" She replied with a serenity that surprised even herself. "Right. I love you," Philip said, but the words sounded hollow to Marina now. "Me too." She hung up without waiting for a reply. At 10 o'clock, Beatrice arrived as planned to help her with the final preparations. She was accompanied by 2 other friends, Caroline and Fernanda, who would be bridesmaids. They brought champagne, snacks, and that festive energy typical of a wedding day. Marina received them with a smile that perfectly hid the internal storm she was living. She offered coffee, showed off the dress, talked about the final details of the ceremony as if nothing extraordinary was about to happen. "You seem different today," Beatrice commented as she arranged the flowers that would go in Marina's hair. "More? Serene, I thought you'd be more nervous." "I guess I've accepted that everything will work out no matter what happens," Marina replied, and it wasn't a lie. She had accepted that the future would be different from what she had planned, but that it would still work out. Time passed quickly. Noon arrived and the hired hairdresser appeared to do Marina's hair. She asked for an elegant bun, hair tied high on her head, nothing too elaborate. She wanted to be impeccable, but also free to move easily when the time came. While the hairdresser worked, Marina took the opportunity to make some discreet calls. She locked herself in the bedroom for a few minutes and confirmed details with people she had contacted overnight. An economic journalist who had expressed interest in the story, a lawyer who agreed to be present to formalize the accusations, a private investigator who had already been tracking some suspicious movements of Philip's company. Everything was falling into place, each piece on the chessboard being carefully positioned. At 3 in the afternoon, Marina began to dress. Her friends helped her with the gown, the veil, the shoes. Beatrice placed the pearl necklace inherited from Mrs. Helen around her neck. Marina looked at the pearls in the mirror and felt a pang in her chest. Mrs. Helen didn't deserve to go through this. She was a good, kind woman. But Marina had no choice. The truth needed to come out, no matter who got hurt in the process. "You look beautiful, Mari. Truly beautiful," Caroline said, her eyes welling up. "And are you happy?" Fernanda asked, holding Marina's hands. Marina looked at her reflection in the mirror. She saw a woman dressed in white, with flowers in her hair, delicate makeup and a tranquil smile on her lips. But inside, a warrior was preparing for battle. "I am at peace," she replied, and it was the most honest truth she could say at that moment. The car that would take Marina to the church arrived punctually at 4:15. It was a white limousine decorated with ribbons and flowers, specially rented for the occasion. Marina entered carefully, holding the train of her dress, making sure the envelope hidden in the secret pocket was secure. During the ride to St. Michael's Church, Marina looked out the window watching the city pass by. London on a Saturday afternoon, always busy, always alive. People living their lives, oblivious to the drama that was about to unfold in that elegant church in Kensington Gardens. When they arrived, Marina saw that many guests were already there. Luxury cars parked in front, well-dressed people chatting in the church gardens. Everything looked like it came out of a wedding magazine. Perfect, impeccable, false. Beatrice helped Marina out of the limousine. "Are you ready?" her friend asked. "More than ever," Marina replied. They entered through the side door of the church. Marina was led to a private room where she would await her entrance. Through the door she could hear the soft organ music, the murmur of guests settling into the pews. Mrs. Helen appeared at the door, beautiful in a navy blue dress. She came to hug Marina with tears in her eyes. "My dear, you are radiant. Philip is a lucky man." Marina returned the hug, feeling a lump in her throat. "Mrs. Helen, I need you to know that I admire you very much. You have always been wonderful to me. Please remember that, no matter what happens today." Mrs. Helen pulled back slightly, confused. "What are you talking about, dear? Everything will be fine. It's your day of joy." Marina merely smiled and kissed the forehead of the woman who had almost become her mother-in-law. Some truths need to come to light, even if it hurts. Before Mrs. Helen could reply, the ceremony coordinator entered, announcing that it was time to begin. The wedding march was about to play. Philip was already at the altar, the bridesmaids and groomsmen in their places, the guests in anticipation. Marina took a deep breath. She took the bouquet of white flowers that Beatrice handed her. She adjusted her veil. She discreetly touched the envelope hidden in her dress, ensuring it was there, safe and accessible. "It's time," the coordinator said. Marina walked to the large wooden doors of the church. On the other side, she could hear the music beginning. It was the classic version of the wedding march, the one that played at all traditional weddings. But today, it would have a completely different meaning. The doors opened slowly. Marina saw the central aisle of the church stretching before her, the pews filled with people, white flowers decorating every detail. And there at the altar, Philip awaited her with a confident smile, dressed in an impeccable tuxedo. Beside him, Marina noticed Veronica among the guests, the one who was complicit in the schemes. Robert was also there, the partner who had helped plan everything. All of them thinking everything was under control, that the perfect plan was coming to fruition. Marina took the first step, then another. She walked down the central aisle with an erect posture, head held high, eyes firm. She smiled at the guests who watched her, moved, not imagining that within minutes that idyllic scene would transform into something completely different. With each step, Marina felt a strength growing within her that she didn't know she possessed. She was no longer the naive woman who had blindly trusted empty words and false promises. She was someone new, someone who had chosen to rewrite her own story, regardless of the consequences. Philip watched her from the altar with that smile Marina now recognized as calculated. He extended his hand to receive her, confident that in minutes he would be sealing a lucrative partnership disguised as a marriage of love. Marina reached the altar. She stood face to face with Philip. The music ceased. The priest smiled and opened the prayer book. The guests settled into silence, awaiting the start of the ceremony, but before the priest could begin, Marina took a step forward and turned to the guests. Her voice echoed clear and firm through the silent church. "Before we begin, there is something everyone needs to know." The silence that followed Marina's words was absolute. All eyes turned to her, confused, curious, some already with a pang of apprehension. Philip frowned, forcing a nervous smile. "Marina, love, what are you doing?" he whispered, trying to take her hand. She pulled away, keeping her distance. Her voice echoed through the church with a clarity she herself didn't know she possessed. "I came here today dressed in white, yes, but not to marry. I came to reveal the truth." A murmur ran through the pews. Philip visibly paled. Veronica, sitting in the third row, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Marina could see Robert a few rows back, discreetly checking his phone. "Marina, you're not well. Let's talk privately." Philip tried to intervene, taking a step towards her. "No," she replied firmly, stopping his approach with a hand gesture. "These people came here thinking they would witness a marriage of love. They deserve to know that they would actually be witnessing a farce, a strategic alliance disguised as romance." Mrs. Helen stood up, startled. "Marina, dear, what is happening?" Marina looked at the woman who had welcomed her so warmly and felt a pang in her heart. "Mrs. Helen, you have always been wonderful to me, and for that, I ask that you listen to me until the end. Then you will understand." She turned again to all present. Her heart pounded, but her voice remained steady. "Last night I came to the club where our reception would be held. I wanted to leave some gifts for the groomsmen. When I arrived, I overheard a conversation I shouldn't have heard. Philip was with friends, relaxed, being sincere in a way he never was with me." She paused, letting the weight of the words fill the space. Philip tried to interrupt again, but Marina's gaze silenced him. He said word for word that I was perfect for what he needed, that I would be a suitable partner on paper, that my money, my inheritance, would be fundamental for his company's expansion, and that when someone more suitable for his future plans came along, he would reevaluate the situation. Gasps of shock echoed through the church. Some women covered their mouths with their hands. Men exchanged incredulous glances. Mrs. Helen sat back down, her face ashen. "That's a lie!" Philip exploded, his mask of composure finally falling. "You're making all this up. You're nervous, in a panic. This is just wedding anxiety." Marina remained calm. She pulled a small digital recorder from the secret pocket in her dress. "Yesterday, after hearing that conversation, I went back. I left this recorder hidden in the hall. I wanted to make sure I wasn't mistaken, that I hadn't misinterpreted your words. Do you want me to play it?" The panic in Philip's eyes was instantaneous. "No, no need. Look, Marina, we can talk, explain. Things are not how you're thinking." "No? Then explain the documents I found yesterday morning by accessing your company's system. The scheduled transfers to offshore accounts, the contracts that made me an indirect partner without my knowledge or consent, the use of my inheritance as collateral for loans I never authorized." Marina took an envelope from her secret pocket and began to read excerpts from printed emails. "Dear Robert, with Marina's financial structure, we can enable Phase 2 without needing external investors. After consolidation in the southern market, we will have flexibility for necessary adjustments in the corporate structure." Another email, this one to Veronica. "She still suspects nothing. The full community of property regime was accepted without question. 6 months after the wedding, we will have complete access to her funds." Veronica tried to get up and leave discreetly, but Marina pointed at her. "This is Veronica Santos, Philip's cousin and partner in the schemes, and that's Robert Anderson, the other accomplice. Both knew exactly what was happening." At this moment, the church doors opened and 3 men in suits entered. One of them Marina recognized as Dr. Henry Campbell, the lawyer she had contacted overnight. The other 2 were investigators from HM Revenue and Customs, HMRC, whom she had alerted with the evidence she had gathered. "Good afternoon, I am Dr. Henry Campbell, a lawyer specializing in financial fraud. I am here representing Ms. Marina Oliveira Santos." He showed documents. We have a court order to seize documents and initiate an investigation into fiscal and corporate irregularities involving the company Anderson and Costa Consulting. The second man introduced himself. Tax agent Roderick Mason, we need Mr. Philip Costa, Ms. Veronica Santos, and Mr. Robert Anderson to accompany us to provide clarification. Chaos erupted in the church. People stood up. Conversations broke out everywhere. Philip was paralyzed, his face red with rage and humiliation. Veronica tried to argue that she knew nothing, that it was all a misunderstanding. Robert was already on the phone, presumably calling his own lawyer. Marina remained at the altar, calm in the center of the storm she had created. A flash caught her attention. It was Andrew Silver, the economic journalist she had contacted, photographing and noting everything for the article he would publish in the coming days. Philip finally reacted. "You ruined me!" He spat the words with hatred. "You destroyed everything I built." "No, Philip. You ruined yourself when you decided to use people as pawns in a game," Marina replied calmly. "I just refused to be your victim." He tried a last-ditch effort, changing his tone to pleading. "Marina, I loved you. In my own way, I loved you. We can fix this. It doesn't have to be like this." Marina looked at him, at the man she thought she knew, and felt only a distant sadness. "Your way was never enough, Philip. Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't use. Love doesn't turn people into instruments to achieve selfish goals." She turned to the guests, many still in shock, others clearly supporting her courage. "To all who came here with good intentions, I apologize for this spectacle, but some truths need to be exposed in plain light, even if the setting is not ideal." Mrs. Helen approached, tears streaming down her face. Marina gently took the woman's hands. "Mrs. Helen, you were the mother I never had, and that's why it hurts even more to have to do this. But you deserve to know who your son really is." "I didn't know anything," Mrs. Helen sobbed. "My God, I didn't know. I know, and I hold no resentment towards you." Marina hugged the older woman, feeling her tremble in her arms. Beatrice appeared beside Marina, her eyes wide with admiration and shock. "You knew all this since yesterday?" "Since last night," Marina confirmed. "I spent the night gathering evidence." "And you didn't tell me anything?" "I couldn't risk someone warning Philip. Everything had to happen exactly like this." The tax agents were now escorting Philip, Veronica, and Robert out of the church. Philip cast one last glance at Marina, a mixture of rage, despair, and something that might have been regret. But she wasn't sure. Marina watched him leave and felt something break, and at the same time be liberated within her. It wasn't happiness, not yet, but it was relief. It was the feeling of having taken control of her own narrative. The church began to empty slowly. Some guests congratulated Marina on her act of courage. Others left in a hurry, clearly uncomfortable with the drama they had witnessed. Some stayed to offer support, asking if she needed anything. Marina thanked everyone but said she needed to be alone for a moment. When the church was finally empty, she walked to a pew and sat down, still in her wedding dress, the discarded bouquet beside her. She looked at the altar, at the white flowers, at the space where she should have said yes to a life of lies, and instead she had said no. She had chosen the truth, however painful it might be. Beatrice returned and sat beside her in silence. After a few minutes she asked, softly, "What are you going to do now?" Marina looked at her hands, at the pearl necklace she was still wearing, at the dress she had sewn so carefully to hide the evidence that saved her life. "Now? I'm going home. I'm going to take off this dress. And tomorrow I start rebuilding my life, from scratch if necessary. You're not alone, Mari. I'm here. Your friends are here." "I know." Marina held Beatrice's hand. "And that's the difference. I have real people by my side. Not strategic alliances, not pieces of a game, real people who truly love me." The two sat there as the sun began to set, tinting the church's stained glass windows with golden and orange hues. Outside, the city continued its life, indifferent to the drama that had unfolded within those ancient walls. Marina finally stood up, carefully removed the pearl necklace and placed it on the pew. It was beautiful, rich in history, but it wasn't hers. It never truly was hers. It was part of a fantasy that turned out to be an illusion. She walked to the church exit with Beatrice by her side. Outside, the car that had brought her was still parked. The driver, confused by everything that had happened, asked where he should take her. "Home," Marina replied. "Just take me home." During the ride back, Marina looked out the window, watching London at dusk. People on the sidewalks, cars in traffic, the pulsating life of the city that never stopped. She was just another story among millions of stories happening simultaneously in that metropolis, but it was her story. And for the first time in a long time, Marina felt she was in control of it. The first few days after the church incident were strange and quiet. Marina woke up every morning in her empty apartment, and for a few seconds she forgot what had happened. Then reality returned like a cold wave. The wedding that didn't happen, the exposed betrayal, the life that needed to be rebuilt from scratch. She didn't go back to work immediately. She requested a 2-week leave from school, citing personal matters that needed to be resolved. The principal, who had read about the scandal in the newspapers like all of London, was understanding and supportive. Marina spent the first few days just existing. She woke up, had coffee, sat on the sofa, and watched the city from the window. Sometimes she wrote in her red notebook. Other times she just sat in silence, processing everything she had experienced. Beatrice showed up every day, bringing food, company, words of encouragement. "You were amazing, Mari. So brave," she said repeatedly. But Marina didn't feel brave. She just felt tired and strangely empty, as if she had spent all her energy in that confrontation, and now only a shell remained. It was on the 5th day that the phone rang with an unknown number. Marina almost didn't answer, but something made her press the green button. "Hello?" "Marina." It was a female voice, hesitant. "It's Julia." Marina sat upright on the sofa, her heart racing. Her sister. They hadn't spoken in almost 2 years, since a silly disagreement that turned into distance and silence. "Julia," she managed to say. "I saw what happened. I read it in the newspapers. Marina, I didn't know you were going through all this." Julia's voice trembled slightly. "I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even really know myself until that night." There was a long pause. Then Julia continued. "Can I see you? It doesn't have to be now, but when you're ready. I know we haven't been close in recent years, but you're my sister, and I should have been there for you." Marina felt tears forming. "Yes, I would really like to see you." They arranged to meet the following Saturday. Coffee in Notting Hill, neutral territory where they could talk without pressure or old memories getting in the way. 2 days later, another unexpected call. This time it was Isabel, her mother. "Marina, I got the news of what happened. Why didn't you tell me anything?" "Because we've never really been able to talk, Mum," Marina replied, with an honesty that surprised her. "You've always been so distant, so busy with your work and your life. I didn't think you'd care." She heard her mother take a deep breath on the other end of the line. "I always cared, Marina. I just didn't know how to show it. I'm a difficult person, I know, but you're my daughter." "I know, Mum. Can I visit you? I want to see you, talk in person." Marina accepted despite her doubts. Isabel would come on Sunday. It would be strange, probably uncomfortable at first, but Marina was willing to try. On Saturday, Marina got ready carefully to meet Julia. She chose a simple but pretty outfit, tied her hair in a ponytail, and put on light makeup. She was nervous, as if it were a first date. She arrived at the cafe 5 minutes before the agreed time. She ordered a cappuccino and waited. When Julia appeared at the door, Marina felt a tightness in her chest. Her sister was thinner, with shorter hair, but her eyes were the same as in childhood. Julia saw her and walked to the table. They stood for a few seconds, just looking at each other. Then Julia opened her arms and Marina stood up, accepting the hug. It was awkward at first, 2 bodies that had forgotten how to fit together, but gradually they relaxed. They sat down and for a few minutes just talked about trivialities. The coffee, the weather, London traffic. Then Julia took a deep breath and got straight to the point. "Marina, I'm so sorry for being such a distant sister, for not realizing you were suffering, for letting small, silly things create this abyss between us. I also have my share of blame," Marina admitted. "I could have reached out to you. I could have insisted more on staying in touch." "Why did we stop talking?" Julia asked, genuinely confused. What was the real reason, Marina thought. "I think it was the accumulation. Small hurts, unfulfilled expectations, unspoken words, and suddenly the distance was there and neither of us had the courage to cross it." Julia took Marina's hand across the table. "I want to cross it now. I want my sister back." "Me too." They spent hours in that cafe. They talked about everything. About their shared childhood, about the distant mother they both had, about choices and regrets. Julia talked about her life-in-law, the relationship that had recently ended, the insecurities she hid beneath the facade of a successful woman. Marina, in turn, opened her heart about Philip, about the months of doubt, about the discovery and the confrontation in the church. Julia listened attentively, holding her hand, offering the support Marina had needed for so long. "You were so brave," Julia said. "I don't know if I would have that strength." It wasn't courage, it was desperation. It was knowing that if I didn't act at that moment, it would be too late. It was courage, yes, and I admire you for it. When they said goodbye, they agreed to see each other again the following week. This time, Julia would come to Marina's apartment to watch movies and eat pizza, just like they used to do as teenagers. Small steps to rebuild a bridge that had been destroyed by years of neglect. On Sunday, Isabel arrived punctually at noon. Marina had prepared lunch, nothing elaborate, just pasta with homemade tomato sauce, salad, and bread. Her mother entered the apartment and stood in the living room for a moment as if she didn't know exactly what to do. "It's nice here," Isabel commented, observing the furniture, the books on the shelves, the paintings on the walls. "Thank you, Mom." They ate lunch, with hesitant conversation and uncomfortable pauses. Isabel asked about Marina's work, about how she was feeling, about the next step she planned to take. Marina answered honestly, but also cautiously. After lunch, while they were having coffee, Isabel finally said what she had come to say. "Marina, I wasn't a good mother, I know that. I was always so focused on my career, on my goals, that I forgot to be present for you and your sister. Mom, you don't have to do this." "I do," Isabel interrupted. "You deserve to know that I recognize my mistakes, and that if I could go back in time, I would do things differently. I would be more present, I would listen more, I would hug more." Marina felt tears in her eyes. Her mother had never opened up like this, never admitted her flaws so clearly. "But I can't go back in time," Isabel continued. "I can only try to be better from now on, if you give me that chance." Marina looked at her mother. She saw an older woman with grey hair and wrinkles around her eyes, but she also saw vulnerability and genuine regret. "We all deserve a second chance. I would like you to be part of my life again." Isabel stood up and hugged her daughter. It was a long, tight hug, filled with years of unexpressed affection. Marina let the tears fall freely. In the days that followed, Marina began to go out more. She walked through Hyde Park early in the morning, enjoying the coolness of the day. She sat on benches in the shade of trees and watched people pass by. Mothers with children, elderly couples walking hand in hand, young people playing sports. Life went on. Regardless of the individual pain each person carried, life followed its course. Marina also resumed writing, not just in her red notebook, but she began working on chronicles about family bonds, about new beginnings, about the strength needed to rebuild after a personal tragedy. She sent some texts to blogs and online magazines. Some were accepted. Readers responded positively, sharing their own stories of overcoming. Beatrice convinced her to take a Saturday cooking class. Something light, no. Commitment, just to occupy her mind and learn something new. Marina accepted and discovered she enjoyed cooking, the process of transforming simple ingredients into something delicious. Julia became a constant presence in Marina's life again. Every week, they saw each other at least once. sometimes just for a quick coffee, other times for long dinners full of conversation and laughter. They were rediscovering each other, building an adult friendship on the foundations of the sisterhood they shared. Isabel also began to visit her more frequently. They would come on Sundays, have coffee together, talk about pleasantries, and gradually about deeper things. It was a slow but steady process. One day Marina was organizing old drawers when she found a photo of the three of them together. She must have been about 12, Julia 17, and Isabel was smiling a rare and genuine smile. They were in a park, probably on one of those rare Sundays when her mother wasn't working. Marina put the photo in a frame and placed it on the living room shelf. It was a reminder that despite everything, they had been a family, and perhaps they could be again in a different, more honest and real way. A month had passed since the day at the church when Marina received an unexpected invitation. It was from someone she had met years ago at a literary event, Raphael Anderson. He worked with the restoration of historical documents and had contacted her by email saying he was organizing an exhibition about old letters and forgotten texts. "I'd like you to come, Marina. I think you'll like the theme, reconstruction and preservation of stories that were almost lost," the email said. Marina accepted the invitation. The following Saturday, she went to a small gallery in the historic city of London. The exhibition was intimate, with old documents in frames, handwritten letters from decades ago, faded photographs that told stories of love, loss, and overcoming. Raphael greeted her with a warm smile. He was tall, with brown hair and some grey strands at his temples, discreet framed glasses, and a gentle gaze. Marina remembered him as someone calm and genuinely interested in human stories. "Glad you came," he said. "I was happy when you accepted the invitation." They walked through the exhibition together. Raphael explained the origin of each piece, the stories behind the documents. There was a letter from a woman who had lost everything in a fire, but had rebuilt her life. A diary of an immigrant who had come to England with nothing and founded a prosperous business. Photographs of families separated by war, but who reunited years later. "These are stories of resilience," Raphael commented, as they paused in front of a particularly moving letter. "Of people who could have given up, but chose to continue." Marina looked at the letter and felt something resonate within her. "That's what I need to remember every day." After the exhibition, Raphael invited Marina for coffee at a traditional bakery nearby. It was one of those old London places, with the smell of fresh bread and filtered coffee, marble tables and waiters who knew customers by name. They sat at a corner table. Raphael ordered coffee with milk and a toasted sandwich. Marina ordered the same. They talked about the exhibition, about the documents that had most caught their attention, about the delicate work of restoring old papers without destroying their essence. "It must be gratifying," Marina commented, "bringing back things that were almost lost." "It is," Raphael smiled. "Sometimes I get a document so damaged it seems impossible to save, but with patience and care most of it can be recovered. It might not be as it originally was, the marks of time remain, but it's still valuable. It still tells its story." Marina realized he wasn't just talking about old papers. She looked at him and saw understanding in his eyes, not pity but genuine empathy from someone who had also been through difficulties. "I read about what happened," Raphael said softly. "I don't want to be intrusive, but I need to say I admire your courage. It couldn't have been easy." "It wasn't, but it was necessary," Marina replied. "Sometimes we need to destroy the false to be able to build something true, like restoring a document. Sometimes you have to remove layers of dirt and false protections to get to the original material." Marina smiled for the first time in weeks, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "Exactly." They continued talking for hours. Raphael told her about his own life, a marriage that had ended years ago, the pain of separation, the slow process of rebuilding himself. Marina shared her story, not just about Philip, but about her family, about the years of distance she was trying to overcome. When they said goodbye, Raphael handed her a small folded piece of paper. "It's a poem. I found it in an old letter I restored a few months ago. I thought you might like it." Marina opened the paper when she got home. The poem was written in elegant old handwriting. If you stumble, rise. If you cry, breathe. If you love, trust. For every fall is a chance to rise stronger. Every tear cleanses the soul, and every true love is a blessing even when it hurts. She glued the poem into her red notebook and wrote underneath, I am learning to rise. The weeks continued to pass. Marina returned to work, finding comfort in the routine of classes, in the interaction with her students, in the discussions about literature that she loved so much. Some students knew what had happened, others did not, but all treated her with the same respect as always. On a Thursday afternoon, after classes, Marina was organizing books in the school library when the principal appeared with a request. We have a new literary chronicles project for the school newspaper. I'd like you to coordinate it. I know you have a talent for writing. Marina accepted. She began working with the students, helping them develop their own stories, find their voices. It was gratifying to see young people discovering the power of words, of personal narrative. She also continued writing her own chronicles. Some were published on literary websites, others in small magazines. It wasn't about making money or fame. It was about processing her experience, about transforming pain into something that could help other people. One of her most shared chronicles was about the importance of listening to the warning signs we ignore for fear of losing something we never truly had. Many women wrote to her, telling similar stories, thanking her for speaking about such a delicate topic with such honesty. On a Sunday afternoon, 3 months after the day that changed her life, Marina organized a dinner at her apartment. She invited Julia, Isabel, Beatrice, and a few other close friends. She wanted to celebrate, not what she had lost, but what she had gained, the real connections she was building. Julia arrived early, bringing flowers. Isabel appeared with a creme caramel she had made personally, following an old recipe from their grandmother. Beatrice brought wine and funny stories. The other friends came with hugs and that welcoming energy of people who truly care. They had dinner and talked for hours. They laughed at old stories, shared future plans, toasted to friendship and family. At one point, Isabel took Marina's and Julia's hands and said something that would be etched in both their memories. I wasted too much time being distant. I won't waste any more. You two are my greatest treasure, and it took me too long to recognize that. Julia found an old box in the closet while looking for something in the kitchen. Inside were drawings they had made as children. One of them showed 2 girls holding hands under a tree. Julia had drawn it, and Marina had colored it. At the time, they were perhaps 6 and 11 years old. Remember this? Julia showed the drawing to Marina. Marina took the paper, yellowed by time, and felt her eyes well up. We were so close. We can be again. Julia hugged her sister. In fact, we already are. After everyone had left, Marina stood on the apartment balcony, watching the illuminated city. London at night was beautiful in a chaotic and vibrant way, millions of lives happening simultaneously, each with its joys and pains, victories and defeats. Her phone rang. It was a message from Raphael. Hi, Marina. I'm visiting an antique fair on Saturday and wondered if you'd like to come along. No pressure, just a pleasant afternoon looking for forgotten treasures. Marina smiled and typed her reply. I'd love to. Send me the address. On Saturday, Marina met Raphael at the fair. It was a large event in a renovated old warehouse with stalls filled with old books, vinyl records, photographs, period furniture, and all sorts of relics from the past. They walked among the stalls, talking about everything and nothing. Raphael picked up old books and read excerpts to Marina. She found an empty notebook with a worn leather cover and decided to buy it to continue writing her reflections. At one of the stalls there was a small framed piece with a hand-embroidered phrase. In the place where everything seemed to have ended, there was still enough silence to plant something new. Marina read the phrase twice. Then she decided to buy the framed piece. It was perfect. It summarized exactly what she was experiencing. Raphael noticed her choice and smiled. It's a powerful phrase. It's my life now, Marina replied. I'm planting new things in the silence I found after the storm. And what is growing? He asked. Honesty, real connections, self-love, a version of myself that doesn't need external approval to exist. After the fair, they walked through a nearby park. The day was beautiful, soft sun, cool breeze. They sat on a bench near a lake where ducks swam peacefully. "Marina, can I ask you something?" Raphael said after a few minutes of comfortable silence. "Of course. Are you ready to trust again? In other people, in future possibilities?" Marina thought carefully before replying. "I'm learning. It's not easy after being betrayed so deeply. But I've also learned that to close my heart completely would be to let Philip win in another way. So yes, I'm trying to trust again. Carefully, but without paralyzing fear. It's all we can do," he agreed. "Move forward with the scars, but without letting them completely define who we are." They stayed there for a longer time. Raphael talked about a new restoration project he was starting. Documents from a family of Italian immigrants who arrived in England. In the 19th century, Marina spoke about her classes, about the students who were discovering a love for writing. When they finally stood up to leave, Raphael hesitated. "I don't know if there's space in your life right now for anything beyond friendship, but I want you to know that I'm here. No rush, no expectations, just present." Marina looked at him. She saw a kind, patient, genuine man. Someone who understood that healing takes time. Someone who didn't try to rush her process or fill voids she herself needed to learn to inhabit. "There is space," she replied softly. "Perhaps not for grand declarations or promises yet, but there is space for your presence, and that already means a lot." Raphael smiled, and they walked together back to where they had parked their cars. Before saying goodbye, he lightly touched her hand. It was a simple but significant gesture, a possible beginning of something that didn't need to be defined yet. That night, Marina opened her red-covered notebook for the last time in that chapter of her life. She leafed through the pages filled with doubts, fears, unanswered questions, pages that documented her journey from deception to truth, from pain to healing. On the last blank page, she wrote, "Today I discovered that I don't need to erase my scars to live in peace. They are part of my story, but they are not my whole story. In the place where everything seemed to have ended, I found enough silence to plant something new, and what is growing is a truer version of myself, one that knows that real love does not manipulate, that family can be rebuilt, that courage sometimes is simply choosing the truth, even when it hurts. Philip tried to use me as a piece in his game, but he found out that I know how to play, and I play to win, not through revenge, but through truth and reconstruction. Today, I am free, not because I forgot what happened, but because I chose not to let it define my future. There is still pain, yes, but there is also hope. And in the end, hope always wins." Marina closed the notebook and put it in a drawer. Tomorrow she would buy a new notebook, the one she had found at the fair. It would be for new beginnings, new stories, new possibilities. She looked out the window and saw the city of London shining in the night. Millions of lights, millions of stories, and hers was just one among many. But it was hers. True, honest, imperfect, but genuinely hers. And that was enough. Dear listeners, we hope Marina's story has touched your hearts and inspired reflection on the choices we make, on the courage to face difficult truths, and on the power of reconstruction. Marina taught us that sometimes the bravest path is not the one that avoids pain, but the one that traverses truth with honesty, however difficult it may be. If this story resonated with you, we invite you to subscribe to our channel to follow more narratives that explore the complexity of life, love, family, and overcoming. Leave a like if Marina's journey moved you, and don't forget to share your own reflections on new beginnings and second chances in the comments. Every shared story creates a chain of empathy and understanding. Every day we bring new stories that celebrate human resilience and the ability to reinvent ourselves when necessary. We'll see you in the next story, and remember, sometimes the end of something is just the beginning of something much better. See you soon.